I think I'm quoting that from Ms. Hughes' statement, that she was adamant about reducing summer delinquency rates, that she had a special interest in youth, that she mentored and spoke with kids through various programs, and that she was writing a book about Bridge the Gap. And she told Miss Hughes, everyone has some good inside. You listen to a lot of testimony from my clients' friends. Drug dealing, struggling, multiple issues. If Markeith Loyd had been in his life, I want to read you something, because I didn't hear the prosecution put it on, that Deborah, Lieutenant Clayton, said from her video. This is such a great day that God has made us, isn't it? We need the community to speak up. Let us know what's going on so that we can try to get a read. We can't do anything without you all telling us what's going on so that we can protect and save our children from violence. The police are here to help you, not to hurt you. We are here to help you, so don't give up on us. We are for you. So that was the reason for bringing the cops and the community together, so we can start having a unity, building these relationships and trusting each other. Ted? Boy, thanks. So what lawyers normally do in the course of their presentation is that they prepare their side of the story, the issues, and they also rebut the opposing counsel's statements made during their closing argument. So I want to spend a few minutes just doing that. I wrote them down as I went through them. Mr. Williams talked about how much money Colino made, Dr. Colino. I think it was $50,000. Do we want to live in a world where we send someone to death row without proper representation, without the resources to defend and present their issues? I'm not going to apologize on how much I spent on this case. It was a lot. But the value of Markeith Loyd's life is worth every penny. He talked about Colino writing the script. What he didn't say was that when we hire experts, it's done confidentially. We don't have to share them with the state of Florida until we're ready to share them. And sometimes not at all, because you heard at least Dr. Colino, I thought there was other expert testimony who said, I've been brought into cases and I just walked away because I couldn't do anything. And so in this system, when the script is written, it's done under the guise of confidentiality. So we don't want to give the information to anybody, including the people who are at that clinic or whatever, the radiologists who read that. Because number one, it has no value. We don't know what their background and experience is. Dr. Colino is a neurologist. And even though you heard from their doctor, who is a neuroradiologist, he admits that he's not a neurologist. And he admits that he doesn't even see patients. And he admitted that all he does is look at pictures. And then he admitted on cross-examination, after saying everything was right, no problems, that there were issues in each of those scans. And that the interpretation that was different was between him and Colino, who is a neurologist, who sees the patient, who has a history, who works through this process. Now, there was all this talk by Mr. Williams about how the doctor's decisions were based in a large part because of Mr. Loyd's reporting. So what they were saying is, oh, he's reporting, so you have to rely on him. But I got to take you back to Dr. Mayer in the first part of this case, who said that Markeith Loyd underreports. And we know that he underreports because on Dr. Sesta's report, which was a test, an actual objective test that was scored, where he found he was psychotic or had psychosis, and said that he found he was an underreporter. So what does that mean? That Markeith Loyd hasn't told us everything? All the traumas, all the circumstances? That's possible. That's what underreporting talks about. He had every opportunity to exaggerate his symptoms. What did we know from the very beginning when Markeith Loyd took the stand the first case? I'm not mentally ill. I'm not mentally ill. We know that his family, his mother, grew up not really believing in mental illness. Although she took him to Laurel Oaks, and he wanted to get out because he didn't think anything was wrong. He was 16 or 17, and they wanted to keep him. Markeith Loyd has always said he's not mentally ill. They spent a lot of time showing you a couple of things which I think are completely inaccurate based on the circumstances in the first part of some Facebook writings. And with his failure to surrender after Dixon, after Clayton. But Markeith Loyd did surrender, okay? Now certainly he was confronted with the police who came to the house because they found him through the cell tracking material. But when confronted with that, he was motivated to surrender. And perhaps it was because he wanted to give that $125,000 of reward money to Miss Dixon's father for the children. There may have been other reasons. But he crawled out and he surrendered. My memory, and you have to rely on your memory, is that when Sesta's report was brought out, and I think they tried to bring it out through Dr. Mayer when they called him, but when his report was brought out, all the experts agreed with the most important part of that test being the exaggerated paranoia, and psychotic disorder. And so you understand, an MMPI is a written test that is given to a person to read the questions and fill out the answers. So it's not like the expert is giving his subjective points on that test. Dr. is giving him an objective test that is scored through a computer. And what's really important about that is that they have a built-in, besides what I talked about, the paranoia and the delusional thinking or psychotic thinking, was that they have a portion that is designed to see if someone is cheating. It's called malingering in medical terms, exaggerating their symptoms. And we know that besides Dr. Mayer relied on that when he testified the first time and told you, listen, Dr. Sesta said he was underreporting on the MMPI. So this is not like Dr. Mayer was evaluating that subjectively. It was that Dr. Mayer was relying on Dr. Sesta's test that was giving, which is an objective test. And that found he was an underreporter. And based on that, which is only part of the evidence that is testified to, we know that that's consistent with a thought disorder, a persecutory disorder, and a psychotic disorder. So we have a test that is objective, that's finding that of Mr. Loyd. Yes. Okay, thank you. And in terms of the state doctors, you remember when I cross-examined Dr. Gamache, and he had said, oh yeah, I spoke to him extensively about his Facebook findings, and then I went through every one of his pages, and no direct reference to Facebook, and there was very little collateral reference to Facebook. And his job was to look at the insanity, not mitigation, because he never met with the family, he never looked at records, he didn't determine history through the family. And you remember Dr. Warner, when I impeached her early on in her testimony, that her report was wrong and had misstated a couple things, she kind of laughed about it or giggled. That's my memory. And she does get paid. She told you she gets paid. The clinic that she works on, which the state talked about, where they're trying to present her as this neutral person who doesn't get a benefit, all these experts get a benefit. We heard about it. They make money, they get paid. I get paid. They get paid. But Warner did not work for free because the money goes to her clinic. She bills the state, and the money goes to her clinic. And they pay her salary. Now, we've never questioned that Markeith Loyd sold drugs. That's never been a question during this whole process. And I'm going to explain in more detail why we should be greatly concerned of Mr. Williams' statement that, all right, so it wasn't his drugs. Let's send him to prison for 16 years for his other sins. That's what he said. And we'll talk about that a little later. But as right or wrong, as a young man, he grew up in a community where certain males found that that was the only way they can get some kind of benefit. And in his case, he used part of that to provide for his family. He started out stealing when he was younger, 8, 9, and graduated into drug dealing. And you heard about fancy cars riding around the neighborhood. This is Carver Shores. Carver Shores back in the 90s.
This is a good breaking point, Mr. Waterman?
Yeah, Judge, this is good.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break for lunch. We'll be back at 1:15. Your lunch is here, so enjoy your lunch. We'll see you back at 1:15 for the remainder of closing.